You feel calm. I'll help you if you
I got
can't.
spot.
We're gonna
Get a score for the last one.
Grayson 24, Butler 10. Here's a sheet from one.
That's a 24-10, great.
24-10, yeah.
Hey, at least it's not 24-11.
That'd be great if you.
You just remember that line and record
Everything on that side.
Here we go.
Alright.
Rick, can you see everybody over here?
Timothy, Noah, Chris, Alex.
Good, all right. And we'll begin. Here we go. Toss-up 1. This type of scattering gave conclusive evidence of the particle-like behavior of light. Its namesake discoverer won the Nobel Prize in 1927 for it. Identify this kind of scattering that results in X-rays of longer wavelengths.
Grayson County, Chris.
Rock again.
Incorrect.
4.
I pointed to him, so I know you're supposed to wait, but incorrect. It's Compton scattering. He'll watch it. Yeah, I just looked up and, all right. So it's Compton. Toss-up 2. This musical work's 3/8 andante con moto second movement begins with unison dotted rhythms for viola and cello. Its iconic opening passage, which the BBC used in World War II broadcast, is often said to represent fate knocking at the door. Identify this Beethoven work that begins with 2 short, long motifs.
Grayson County, Alex.
Ode to Joy.
Incorrect.
Logan County, Austin. Bagatelle and Atlanta.
Incorrect. Symphony number 5. Toss-up 3. What is the coefficient of y squared in the expanded form of the expression quantity x plus 2y, closed quantity, raised to the 6th power? There's time out before you, okay, 60. Toss-up 4. This writer collected some of his essays in Shooting an Elephant and published his memoir under the title Down and Out in Paris and London. He explores British colonialism.
Grayson County, Alex.
Orwell. Correct. Bonus 5. This unit, officially the 1st Volunteer Cavalry, was commanded by Colonel Leonard Wood. Its members included cowboys, college students, miners, policemen, and one future president of the United States. What unit, famed for an 1898 charge at the Battle of Santiago, had as its second in command Theodore Roosevelt?
Rough Riders.
Correct. Toss-up 6. This work's title location features communal property, no poverty or class distinctions, religious tolerance, and almost no crime. Noted traveler Raphael Hifliday describes an island society whose best qualities he believes should be implemented in Europe. Give the one-word title of this.
Grayson County, Noah.
Correct. Bonus 7. This trial's expected legal pyrotechnics were dampened when the judge ruled out consideration of the validity of the law or the theory. Instead, he ruled that the only question the jury could decide was whether the defendant had violated the law, constitutional or not. What 1925 trial saw a Tennessee high school teacher convicted of teaching evolution?
Scopes Monkey Trial.
Correct. Toss up 8. This type of orbital has an angular momentum quantum number of 1. It is visually represented by dumbbells pointing away from the nucleus along the x, y, and z axes. Which orbitals follow the sharp and precede the diffuse, making it...
Logan County, Austin. P.
Yes, you're awesome. I don't even know it. Bonus 9. This Greek god was claimed as an ancestor by the hero Theseus and was the father of many horses, including Pegasus. Another of his children was blinded by Odysseus, and his consort was Amphitrite. Name the Greek god whose son Triton was like him associated with the sea.
Poseidon.
Correct. Toss up 10. The variance of a random variable x is 6. What is the variance of the random variable x plus x?
Logan County, Caleb. 12.
Correct. Bonus. This process's namesake operator, sometimes called the lowering operator, was used to formally define angular momentum. Its opposite is pair production. Name this type of subatomic reaction in which a particle and its antiparticle collide, often destructively. Toss-up 12. This general dance formation is used to perform the shuffle. In the four-wall version, dancers finish each cycle facing away from where they started by 90 degrees. In what dance formation, used in the electric slide, do dancers arrange themselves single file?
Grayson County, Timothy.
Line.
Correct. Bonus 13. This poet's first and last Pulitzer Prizes for New Hampshire and The Witness Tree, respectively, came 19 years apart. He titled his first verse collection A Boy's Will, but north of Boston contains some of his best-loved work, including Mending Wall and The Death of the Hired Man. Name the poet of Birches and The Road Not Taken. Correct. Toss-up 14. The quantity y varies directly as the square root of x. If y equals 27 when x equals 9, find the value of y when x equals 5. Y equals 9 times square root of 5. Toss-up 15. This case is notable for Ruth Bader Ginsburg's closing her dissent with the words, I dissent, instead of the customary, I respectfully dissent. The court heard the case on appeal from the Florida Supreme Court and ruled that the state court had exceeded its authority. In what case did the U.S. Supreme Court ruling effectively decide the 2000 presidential election? Bush versus Gore. Toss-up 16. This choreographer's first great success was an 1862 production of The Pharaoh's Daughter. He often worked with Lev Ivanov and choreographed a polonaise for a fairy tale cast in a ballet that begins with a curse cast by Caraboss. Name this choreographer who produced the original version of Tchaikovsky's Sleeping Beauty. Hedapov. 17, toss-up 17. This process, discovered by Edward Tatum and Joshua Lederberg, is initiated by the relaxase enzyme. It occurs in organisms containing an F plasmid and makes use of a sex pilot. Identify this process by which bacteria transfer genetic information to one another. Conjugation. Toss-up 18. The hypotenuse of a 30, 60, 90 triangle has a measure of 14 units. In units, find the exact length of the triangle's longer leg.
Okay, Caleb.
7 square roots of 3 units.
7
square roots of 3 units.
Does that sound right? Okay, thank you. Bonus 19. The third section of this amendment provides that the vice president-elect shall become president if the president-elect dies before taking the oath of office. The second section requires Congress to meet every year, beginning at noon on January 3rd, unless members by law choose a different day. Identify the amendment that also changed the presidential inauguration date to January 20th. Incorrect, Captain.
12.
Incorrect. 22nd. Toss-up 20. This playwright, a member of the Socialist Fabian Society, grouped 5 plays under the title Back to Methuselah and retold an Aesop fable in Androcles and the Lion. He set arms in a man during the Serbo-Bulgarian War and wrote of a grown daughter who learns her mother owns a brothel in Mrs. Warren's profession. Identify this dramatist who earned a Nobel Prize in part for works like Man and Superman and Pygmalion.
Grayson County Auditor. Shaw.
Correct. Bonus 21. Quadrilateral ABCD is inscribed in a circle, and the measure of angle A is 60 degrees. In degrees, calculate the measure of angle C.
60 degrees.
Incorrect, Captain?
120.
Correct. Toss-up 22. This part of speech, also called an auxiliary verb, appears in the sentence, we should go to the post office before it closes. Often a form of to be, it includes words like need, may, and can. What type of verb aids a main verb in expressing?
Grayson County Noah. Helping verb.
Correct. Bonus 23. The name for this form of government was coined in the 1920s by a leader who proclaimed all within the state, none outside the state, none against the state. This form was not new, however, having been found in the Maurya dynasty of India and the empire of Shaka Zulu. What type of government was given its name by Benito Mussolini, who formed one in Italy?
Fascist.
Incorrect.
Fascism.
Incorrect. Totalitarian. Okay, I think I need to correct that, because it says except other forms of the word, and technically fascism, and that's totalitarian, so, do you all have a question about that? mean,
I would never, I'm sorry.
I know that, cause I teach social studies, and I didn't even look at the other thing, so, I think that's correct, y'all should get that, I know,
Point for Grayson County?
so. There's no democratic fascist state, so it's all totalitarian. Sorry about that, okay. So it would be, I guess we go back to you all, that was a bonus, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so we're tossed up 24. This character, who is taunted by Calloway for ordering soda in a bar, tells Marion, a gun is as good or as bad as the man using it. As he rides off after killing Riker to protect the Starets and other homesteaders, Joey calls for him to come back. Name this title gunfighter played by Alan Ladd.
Grayson County, Chris?
Billy the Kid.
Incorrect.
Logan County, Austin.
Butch Cassidy.
Incorrect. You all should watch this just to see the ending because it's hilarious. Shane. Toss up 25. This phase of a star's life begins after gravitational collapse has finished. During this phase, the fusion of hydrogen into helium is the only process that provides energy to the star. In what phase do stars spend the majority of their lives?
Grayson County, Alex.
Correct. Bonus 26. This artist showed a seated woman in a red dress and black coat looking up at a distinguished older man, while a girl in blue reads a book. He painted two women at a table in a restaurant featuring a Chinese dish, while his best-known work shows customers and a worker at a late-night New York diner. Name the painter of Hotel Lobby, Chop Suey, and Nighthawks. Incorrect? Correct. Toss up 27. Point P is translated left 4 units and then up 2 units, so that the coordinates of the image of point P are 5, 8. Find the coordinates of point P.
Logan County, Houston.
1,6.
Incorrect.
Grayson County, Alex.
3,4.
Incorrect. 9, 6. Toss up 28. This state's legislature passed a bill that would return its holdings from a New York bank. However, the legislature did not say where or how a building to hold it would be constructed, nor appropriate any funds for building one. Identify the state that voted in 2015 to bring its bars back within its borders.
Grayson County, Alex.
Nebraska.
Incorrect.
Logan County, Isaiah.
Maryland.
Incorrect. It's Texas. Toss up 29. This man commemorated Edward King, his drowned college classmate, with the elegy Lycidas, and explored poetic mirth and melancholy in Allegro and Il Penseroso, respectively. He published the closest closet drama, Samson Agonistes, with his poetic account of Christ's temptation, as recorded in the Gospel of Luke. Who wrote of man's disobedience and Adam and Eve's expulsion?
Logan County, Austin.
John Milton.
Correct. Bonus 30. This compound is highly permeable through cardiac muscle, where it is burned as fuel for the heart. This molecule is eventually converted to glucose in the liver after being formed as an intermediate in the Cori cycle, which begins from a lack of sufficient oxygen in muscles. Name this compound formed during anaerobic exercise and found in sour milk.
Lactic acid.
Correct. Toss up 31. Multiple answers required. Consider the equation x cubed plus 4x equals 0. One of the solutions of the equation is x equals 2i. Identify the other solutions of this equation. 0 and negative 2i. Toss up 32. Archaeological evidence has shown that these traditional dwellings had inner partitions built about 7 feet apart. The dwellings were made of saplings 2 to 3 inches in diameter, with their tops tied together to make a domed roof. What dwellings typical of eastern woodlands?
Buzz.
Okay,
Logan County, Isaiah.
TP.
incorrect.
Grayson County, Noah.
Incorrect, long houses. Do we need to do a buzzer check? We lost everybody? All right, toss up 33. This artist. Screw just fell out. Go ahead and see if you can fix it. That works. We'll fix it. We're almost to the half.
Just so you guys know, that's the second time that's happened.
Okay. Toss up 33. This artist demanded that a younger artist named Cartrain turn over all the works based on the first artist's diamond-encrusted platinum skull. He is best known for a series of works that includes the physical impossibility of death in the mind of someone living. Name this British artist known for suspending dead animals in formaldehyde.
Grayson County, Alex.
Smith.
Incorrect.
Logan County, Austin.
Incorrect. Hurst. Toss up 34. This dramatist created a brain-damaged man and his brother in The Caretaker, and a philosophy professor who leaves his wife with his father and brothers in The Homecoming. Burt murders Riley, a blind man looking for an apartment in The Room, while Goldberg and McCann search for Stanley Weber in The Birthday Party. Identify the creator of Hitmen Ben and Gus in The Dumbwaiter.
Grayson County, Alex.
Smith.
Incorrect.
Logan County, Austin. Tommy Wiseau.
Incorrect. Pinter. Toss up 35. This commercial product is now created using the Lenz-Donowitz process, which improved upon an existing process by slowing down production to control contents. To increase strength, this material usually includes 2% manganese, and an everyday household.
Grayson County, Chris.
Steel?
Correct, and that's the English.
Got 3 minutes for a period.
Alright, let's finish.
Easton.
Paul,
Taylor.
Easton. Spot.
Tim.
Snow's got 2, Alex got 3, Reese got 1, Tim.
That was my second
Yours
time.
is the second.
No, don't forget about.
Yeah, I know.
So yes or no on 2?
Yeah, sure.
Had that one. I just did buzz, I didn't think it was right.
I know you didn't hire me.
Good job, and good piece.
I was thinking, I should have waited. Don't hesitate to run around here.
Everett, I've had a good experience with buzzing in and getting
I'm tired and
it happens so much, I just don't buzz once I know.
I think you should get it. Nick is a legend, we don't take him out.
We made it, they can bury their DNA. If it's asexual, what's the
No, that's Nick. I mean, Lashley.
Oh, I thought you were, I'm sorry.
We're gonna pass on the legacy of
Okay,
that.
binary form of bacterial reproduction.
Oh, should you forget?
Binary fission is asexual.
I don't give a good pep talk.
So wait, a lot of conjugation actually is sexual?
For bacteria, because it's swapped, they can only swap genes in the plasmid, that's it. The most common is, binary.
Yeah, I was.
I don't actually
First
spell
one
my
that
name.
I'm saying that big jam.
Okay.
Don't ever get this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Defer to you again.
I got it.
You don't have the sheets, right?
That was supposed to be.
If you don't see it all the time, it's like, okay, what's that supposed to say?
I'm not used to seeing two parentheses right next to each other.
Yeah.
You took something away.
Mom needs to get her skills together.
Gotcha. I understand.
All right, can we do a quick buzzer check? Noah, with Grayson County, could you turn yours a little bit so our spotter up here? No, you're.
Do you care if I don't say Grayson County and Logan?
Well, where there are two Noahs.
No, it's alright, then I'll do it.
So I think, you know, if it's Noah, just you can identify. Okay. All right, we ready? All right, toss up 1. One composer from this country portrayed a water sprite whose love for a human prince leads her to drink a potion that renders her mute in the opera Usalka, Another composer wrote an opera about the love between Yannick and Marinka.
Logan County House.
Russia.
Incorrect. In The Bartered Bride. From what country were the composers Smetana and Dvorak?
Grayson County House.
Incorrect. Czechoslovakia. All right, toss-up 2. This character allows his son to marry Morgiana, the recently freed slave who twice saved his life. At the story's conclusion, she pours hot oil on the 40 thieves who hid in jars, hoping to regain the treasure the title figure discovered. Who is this poor woodcutter from The 1001 Nights who entered a cave by using the phrase, "Open sesame"?
Oh, Grayson County Chris.
Alibaba.
Correct. Bonus 3. The pH at this entity can be used to determine the appropriate indicator to avoid a large difference between this and the endpoint. When the indicator changes color, it can be seen as a sharp increase and or a second derivative on titration curves. Give the point at which the amount of acid or base added during the titration has resulted in neutralization.
Equilibrium point?
Incorrect. Captain?
Triple point?
Incorrect. Equivalence point. Toss-up 4. Rivers that begin in this mountain range include the Yuba, American, Merced, and Kern. A major feature of the plant life in the range is the giant trees in Sequoia National Park. What mountain range, whose name means snowy mountain?
Grayson County Alex.
Rocky Mountain.
Incorrect. Whose name means snowy mountain?
Logan County House.
Sierra Nevada.
Correct. Bonus 5. Express your answer as a fraction. Consider a right cylinder with a lateral surface area of 24 pi square units, where the radius of the base is 6 units. In units, calculate the exact height of the cylinder.
4.
Incorrect, Captain?
6.
Incorrect. 2. Toss-up 6. This author was a member of a prominent New England family, but lived for 18 years in Cincinnati, just across the Ohio River from slave state Kentucky. Her first published work was The Mayflower, a fictional profile of the Pilgrim's descendants, but she turned to A Tale of the Great Dismal Swamp in Dread. Who created Topsy, Little Eva, and Simon Legree in Uncle Tom's Cabin?
Grayson County Alex.
Truth.
Incorrect.
Logan County House.
Harriet Beecher Stowe.
Correct. Bonus 7. Li Hongzhi is a leader of this movement, whose members practice a set of 5 physical exercises. The religion's name derives from a term for Dharma practice wheel. Name this religious movement centered in China, whose government has banned it and arrested members.
Buddhism.
Incorrect, Captain.
Hinduism.
Incorrect. Falun Gong. Toss-up 8. Proponents of symbolic interactionism say that this 7-letter word stands for something that really does not exist. In everyday usage, though, it refers to something that does exist around and beyond the individual. Give the word used in sociology for a group of people who share a common culture and consider themselves a distinct entity.
Grayson County Noah.
Society.
Correct. Bonus 9. The membranes surrounding this organelle are known as tonoplasts, and they contain proteins called aquaporins that allow active transport. They come in food and contractile varieties, the latter of which maintains turgidity via osmosis. What are these plant organelles that store organic compounds and water?
Vacuole.
Correct. Toss-up 10. Evaluate the expression log base 3 of the square root of 3.
Grayson County Timothy.
1.
Incorrect.
Logan County Noah.
Negative.
Incorrect. 1/2. Toss-up 11. Plaintiff and defendant required. This case is known by the second defendant, whose name is misspelled in court documents. The plaintiff won against the first defendant in 1850, but the state Supreme Court overturned that decision. The plaintiff then sued the second defendant in federal court. What 1857 Supreme Court case ruled that African Americans could,
Grayson County Alex.
Let's see if there's Ferguson.
incorrect, could never be U.S. citizens?
Logan County Noah.
There's 11 cities.
No.
Incorrect. It required both the plaintiff and defendant. Scott versus Sanford. Toss-up 12. This author set his novel, The Master of Ballantrae, during the Jacobite uprising, while David Balfour survives a shipwreck.
Grayson County Alex.
Robert Louis Stevenson.
Correct. I'm sorry.
Robert Louis Stevenson.
Yes, correct. Bonus 13. consider the vectors u equals less than 5, comma, I don't even know
Oh, it should,
how do I say that?
okay, you want
Could
me to
you
just
read
read
it,
it?
please?
Consider the vectors, u equals 5, 6, and v equals x, -2. If the dot product of u and v is 13, what is the value of x?
Incorrect, Captain?
Negative.
Incorrect, 5. I'm sorry, I just have a question. When it has those, the greater than less than sign, is
The
that
only
for
reason they're like that is because they're vectors.
They're
It's the same thing as parentheses,
Okay.
but the only reason they're like that is because they're vectors.
Can I remember that because they look like sideways V's?
Yeah.
Okay, I just need to say that out loud for the future, thank you.
They do look like less than and greater than signs, but
Yeah.
it's just because they're vectors.
Okay, thank you. Toss up 14. John Singer Sargent painted 4 members of this profession who were lecturers on the faculty of Johns Hopkins. Artistic subject David Hayes Agnew was a member of the profession, as was the subject of an 1875 work criticized for its portrayal of blood and entrails. Identify the profession of Samuel Gross, whom Thomas Akins painted lecturing in his clinic.
Grayson County, Alice.
Incorrect. Oh, I'm sorry, I can take that because it says except equivalent answers is physician, so, correct. Bonus. 15. The material released by this type of volcano is mostly lava and not ash or other pyroclastic materials. The basalt lava is not very viscous, causing these volcanoes to be short but broad. What type of volcano is typified by those in Hawaii?
Shield?
Correct. 16. One law with this name states that gaseous reactions occur in simple volumetric ratios. In addition to the law of combining gases, this name is attributed to a law that was actually discovered by Guillaume Amonton. Give the name of the simple gas law describing the direct relation between pressure and temperature.
Grayson County, Alice.
Charles Law.
Incorrect?
Logan County, Paul.
Standard temperature and pressure.
Incorrect. Gay-Lussac law. Toss-up 17. Name, not nickname, please. Although fascinated by Napoleon, he was determined not to betray revolutionary ideals when he went back to South America. He returned in 1807, then was sent to London in 1810 to gain support for the revolutionaries in Venezuela. Name the South American revolutionary who became known as the Liberator.
Logan County, Austin.
Che Guevara.
Incorrect. Volleyball. Toss up 18. In this poem's middle section, Bertilac agrees to exchange his hunting spoils for anything the protagonist acquires at the castle. The title knight agrees to be beheaded, but receives only a mild nick for keeping a magic girdle.
Sorry, Grayson County, Chris.
Sir Dwayne is renamed.
Correct. Bonus 19. First and last name required. The story of this real-life teenager was dramatized by Frances Goodrich and Albert Hackett. Her father claims, "She put me to shame," following her last line. "In spite of everything, I still believe people are really good at heart." Identify the title character of a play set in The Secret Annex, which was adapted from her diary.
And Frank.
Correct. Toss up 20. Consider the irrational number 5 divided by quantity 7 minus the square root of 3, closed quantity. Find the denominator of the rationalized form of the number.
Grayson County, Alex.
40.
Incorrect.
Logan County, Paul.
46.
Correct. Bonus 21. In this novel, Amir does nothing after witnessing a group of boys assault his best friend, Hassan. Years later, Amir travels back to Afghanistan to rescue and adopt Hassan's orphan son, Sohrab. What is this first novel by Khalid Hosseini?
Go ahead, sir.
Captain?
Slumdog Millionaire.
Incorrect. The Kite Runner. Toss up 22. Exact phrase required. This 5-word direction is preceded by the line, "This is the chase. I am gone forever." The direction is given after Antigonus abandons the infant Perdita. What 5-word stage direction from A Winter's Tale calls for Antigonus to be chased off stage by an animal?
Grayson County Chris.
Exit with fair stage left.
Incorrect. Good try.
Logan County Minion.
Exit with Tiger stage right.
Incorrect. Exit pursued by a bear. Close. Toss up 23. Name and number, please. He became heir at age 12 when his father died, but he intensely disliked his grandfather, who was still ruling. Growing up, he was strongly influenced by John Stuart, 3rd Earl of Bute, and in 1760 he became the Elector of Hanover, who also became King of Great Britain and Ireland.
Grayson County Alex.
George III?
Correct. Bonus. 24. In this type of relationship, one organism is generally much smaller than the other. Popular examples include many bacteria, viruses, and headlights. Name this type of relationship where one organism benefits at the expense of the other.
Parasitism.
Correct. Toss up 25. Consider the inequality. Absolute value of quantity x plus 3, closed quantity, is greater than or equal to 5. Identify the smallest possible integer that is in the solution set of the inequality.
Grayson County Alex.
2.
Correct. Bonus 26. Name and number, please. Under such tutors as Roger Ascham, she received the same education given to male heirs. She was third in line to the throne, even though the annulment of her mother's marriage technically made her illegitimate. Who ruled England from 1558 to 1603 and was called Good Queen Bess?
Elizabeth I.
Correct. Toss up 27. Cystic fibrosis confers a resistance to this disease, which is caused by bacteria of the genus Vibrio. Its 1854 Broad Street outbreak, studied by physician John Snow, weakened the 19th century's prevailing miasma theory. Identify this disease brought on by drinking contaminated water, which leads to diarrhea.
Grayson County Noah.
Cholera is correct. Bonus 28. Consider the function f of x equals 3x squared minus 6x plus 2. What are the coordinates of the vertex of the graph of the function f? One comma negative 1. Toss up 29.
That should have been about that.
Oh, what? My bad.
It's just, it's a, oh, sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
It's okay. I mean,
Toss up 29. In this comedy, Eupides and Piscatorus search for King Tereus, whom the gods have transformed into a
Alex.
hoopoo.
Grayson County.
Blue clouds.
Incorrect. Who've transferred into a hoopoo. They hope to prevent communication between mankind and the gods by constructing a walled city in the sky. Cloud Cuckoo Land. Identify this avian comedy by Aristophanes.
Logan County Benjamin.
The world of sky.
Incorrect. Birds. Toss up 30. During this musical era, composer and performer Muzio Clemente first rose to prominence. Simple block chord harmonies dominated the early part of this era, during which the piano emerged as the keyboard instrument of choice. Name this musical era whose major composers included C.P.E. Bach and Wolfgang.
Logan County Austin.
Classical.
Correct. Bonus 31. Consider angle x, which has a measure of 7 pi divided by 5 radians. In radians, what is the measure of the smallest positive angle that is coterminal with angle x?
30 degrees.
Incorrect, Captain?
25 degrees.
Incorrect. 17 pi divided by 5. Toss up 32. This crop may have saved Jamestown when it looked like a colony with...
Logan County Noah.
Tobacco.
Correct. Bonus 33. Architects in this ancient land included fake doors and statues called shawabtis and tombs called mastabas. One temple complex there has a great hypostyle hall, to which the Red Hall and 2 obelisks were added by Hatshepsut. Name this country where the Karnak temple complex is near the Valley of Kings.
Egypt.
Correct. Toss up 34. Francis Bacon employs this literary device in the advancement of learning when he writes, "The most corrected copies are commonly the least correct." It is a statement that seems self-contradictory, but actually reveals a deep truth upon closer inspection. Give the name of this device when...
Logan County Benjamin.
Idiom.
Incorrect. Which, when compressed into 2 words, is called an oxymoron.
Grayson County, Noah. Paradox?
Paradox, correct. Bonus 35. Because it was thought to have a higher amount of this property than DNA, protein was originally deemed the carrying agent of genetic material. Lamarck claimed that creatures gained adaptations in order to increase in this measure on a namesake ladder, though Darwin disproved that theory. Identify this property of organisms that, when increased, generally leads to a greater number of parts and mechanisms interacting with one another.
Complexity?
Correct. That's the map.
Yes.
Like you said, guys,
Hey guys, get your stuff.
Oh, coaches, there's some food left over in the library. You guys want to let y'all know, I'm gonna